I am a successful software engineer at a major tech company in Seattle, living what I thought was the American dream. 3 years ago, at a charity fundraiser, I met Natalie, a marketing executive with a captivating smile and ambitious spirit. We fell deeply in love, moved in together, and 8 months ago, I proposed at her favorite restaurant. Life seemed perfect until last Friday, when she casually announced, "I am moving in with Anthony. We are having a baby together." My response was simple: "Congratulations." Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button. Trust me, this story of betrayal and dignity will show you why your response to being wronged matters more than the wrong itself. My name is Don, a 32-year-old software engineer born and raised in Seattle. I always had a natural talent with computers, starting with building my first PC at age 12. After graduating from the University of Washington with a computer science degree, I landed a job at one of the major tech companies, where I quickly climbed the ranks due to my work ethic and innovative problem solving. By 30, I had a comfortable six-figure salary, a beautiful condo overlooking the Puget Sound, and a solid group of friends. What I did not have was someone to share it all with. Dating in the tech world had been challenging, with relationships often fizzling out due to my long work hours or simple incompatibility. That all changed at a charity fundraiser for Seattle Children's Hospital 3 years ago. I had volunteered to help set up the event's audiovisual equipment, and she was there representing her marketing firm. Natalie stood out immediately. She had long auburn hair, intelligent green eyes, and a confidence that commanded attention in any room. When she approached me to ask about the microphone setup, our conversation flowed so naturally that we ended up talking for nearly an hour. By the end of the night, we had exchanged numbers, and I had secured a dinner date for the following weekend. Our first date at a small Italian restaurant downtown exceeded all expectations. Natalie was 28, ambitious and passionate about her career in marketing. She had moved to Seattle from Portland 2 years prior for better job opportunities. We discovered shared interests in hiking, true crime podcasts, and a mutual love for old vinyl records. The conversation was effortless, punctuated with genuine laughter and moments of connection that felt almost electric. After that night, we began seeing each other regularly. Weeknight dinners turned into weekend getaways to the San Juan Islands and Mount Rainier. Within 3 months, we were officially a couple, and I found myself falling deeply in love. For the first time, I could envision a future with someone, complete with marriage, a home in the suburbs, and maybe even children someday. Meeting each other's families was the next milestone. My parents, still happily married after 35 years, welcomed Natalie warmly. Her parents divorced, but cordial, seemed equally approving of me. During our visit to Portland, everything felt right, like all the pieces of my life were finally falling into place with Natalie at the center. After 1 year together, I asked her to move into my condo. The transition was surprisingly smooth, our lives merging together with minimal friction. We established routines, divided household responsibilities, and enjoyed building our shared life. Seeing her clothes hanging next to mine and her favorite coffee mug in the cabinet gave me a sense of completeness I had never experienced before. Financial transparency came naturally to us, or so I thought. I was in a better position financially, so I often covered our vacations and most of our dining expenses. When Natalie mentioned struggling with her student loans, I offered to help pay them down. She initially refused, but eventually accepted when I framed it as an investment in our future together. 6 months after she moved in, I also bought her a new car when her old one died, putting it in my name since I could get better financing. 8 months ago, I decided it was time to take the next step. I planned an elaborate proposal at Canlis, her favorite restaurant overlooking Lake Union. With a custom-designed diamond ring burning a hole in my pocket, I nervously watched as she read the special menu I had created, which contained memories from our relationship on one side and my proposal on the other. When she looked up with tears in her eyes and said, "Yes," it was one of the happiest moments of my life. We took endless photos that night to commemorate the occasion, posting our engagement announcement on social media to share our joy with friends and family. Wedding planning began almost immediately. Natalie had always dreamed of a summer wedding, so we set a date for July the following year. We toured venues, created guest lists, and began saving aggressively for both the wedding and our future together. I added her to my premium subscriptions for streaming services, cloud storage, and my family cell phone plan to save money. Every decision was made with our shared future in mind. Looking back, I can now identify the subtle shifts that should have alerted me something was wrong. About 3 months ago, Natalie began working late more frequently. Our text conversations became shorter, often with delayed responses from her end. She guarded her phone carefully, always placing it face down and taking calls in another room. At the time, I dismissed these changes as work stress or wedding planning anxiety. I trusted her completely, never once suspecting she could betray that trust. Anthony was a name I had heard in passing, usually in the context of work projects. Natalie described him as the new marketing director who had transferred from their New York office. I had met him briefly at her company holiday party, a tall guy with perfect teeth and an expensive watch. He seemed friendly enough, complimenting me on my choice in Natalie. I remember joking with him about how lucky I was, completely unaware that he would soon destroy the life I had built. The day everything fell apart started normally enough. I was returning home a day early from a business trip to San Francisco, excited to surprise Natalie. We had been apart for nearly a week, and I missed her more than I cared to admit. I had even stopped at her favorite bakery to pick up chocolate croissants for a special breakfast the next morning. When I unlocked our condo door around 7 in the evening, I called out her name but received no answer. The living room was empty, though I noticed her laptop open on the coffee table with a half-empty wine glass beside it. Thinking she might be in the shower, I headed toward our bedroom. The door was partially open, and I could hear movement inside. As I pushed it wider, I saw Natalie packing clothes into a small suitcase laid open on our bed. She jumped slightly when she noticed me standing in the doorway. "I am back early," I said, still smiling, though something felt immediately off about the scene before me. "Why are you packing?" Her expression did not match what I would expect from someone surprised to see their fiancé home early. Instead of happiness, her face showed something closer to annoyance, tinged with resolve. She straightened up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, in that familiar gesture I had always found endearing. "I was going to call you tonight," she said, her voice oddly detached. "I am moving in with Anthony. We are having a baby together." The words hit me with physical force. I actually felt my body sway slightly, as if I had been struck. The room seemed to tilt around me as my brain struggled to process what she had just said. Anthony, baby, moving in. The phrases bounced around my mind without connecting into anything meaningful. "Is this a joke?" I managed to ask, though I already knew from her expression that it was not. "No, Don. We have been seeing each other for about 6 months now," she said, continuing to fold a sweater I had given her for Christmas. "It just happened. We did not plan it, but the pregnancy changed things. We decided it makes sense to be together. 6 months. Half of our engagement. While we were planning our wedding, visiting venues, talking about our future children, while I was paying her student loans and adding her to my accounts. All that time she had been with someone else. "Are you sure it is his?" I asked, immediately hating how pathetic the question sounded. She nodded with certainty. "Yes, it is definitely his. I am about 10 weeks along." I stood frozen, watching as she continued packing as if this were a normal conversation. My mind raced through calculations, placing the beginning of their affair around the time we had finalized our wedding venue. Had she been with him the same day? She had excitedly shown me photos of flower arrangements. Had she left my bed to text him goodnight? "Anthony and I have a real connection," she continued, when I remained silent. "He is more successful than you know. A partner track at the firm Connections in New York. He is better positioned for my career goals. Each word was another knife, twisting in my chest. Not only had she betrayed me, but she was now explaining why he was the better option. Better than me. Better than the life and future I had offered her. I thought about shouting, about demanding explanations, about begging her to reconsider. But something inside me, perhaps pride, or simply shock, kept me silent and still. In that moment, a strange calm came over me as I remembered something my father had taught me long ago. Dignity cannot be taken, only surrendered. Congratulations, I said simply. My response clearly surprised her. She stopped packing and looked at me directly for the first time since I had entered the room. That is it, she asked, seeming almost disappointed by my lack of drama. That is all you have to say. I nodded slowly. Please leave your keys before you go. She stared at me for a long moment, as if trying to decipher some hidden meaning in my words. Finally, she zipped up her suitcase and pulled out her phone. Anthony is picking me up in 10 minutes, she said, her tone softening slightly. Look, I know this is a shock, but you will get over it. You are a great guy, Don. You will find someone else. The casual cruelty of her words, the assumption that I would simply move on, as if 3 years could be erased so easily, finally cracked my composure. But instead of showing anger, I felt a cold resolve forming. I will put the rest of your things in storage, I said evenly. You can contact me through email about picking them up. She hesitated by the bedroom door, keys in hand. For a brief moment, I thought I saw regret flicker across her face. But then she placed the keys on the dresser without another word and wheeled her suitcase out. Minutes later, I heard the front door close with a decisive click. She was gone, taking my future with her. After Natalie left, I stood motionless in our bedroom, staring at the space she had just occupied. The bakery bag with chocolate croissants was still clutched in my hand, now crushed from my tight grip. I set it down on the nightstand and sank onto the edge of the bed, my mind strangely quiet despite the catastrophic shift in my reality. I sat there for nearly 20 minutes, not crying, not raging, just processing. This calm was not peace, but shock, the stillness before the storm of emotion that would surely come. But in that stillness, I found clarity. If Natalie could so easily discard our relationship, our future, and my trust, then I needed to protect myself immediately. My father had always told me that character is revealed not in how people treat you when things are good, but in how you respond when they treat you badly. I remembered him saying, "A man who keeps his dignity in crisis never regrets his actions afterward." With that thought anchoring me, I reached for my phone and began the methodical process of untangling our lives. The first call was to the jewelry store, where I had purchased her engagement ring. I was still paying it off through their financing program. "Hello, this is Don Mitchell. I purchased an engagement ring from you in February, the custom design with the oval diamond," I explained to the jeweler. "I need to cancel the remaining payments." "I am sorry to hear that, sir." The jeweler responded, his voice softening with understanding. "Would you like to return the ring or continue payments for yourself?" "The ring is with my ex-fiancée. I have no way to retrieve it," I said, realizing for the first time that I would be paying thousands of dollars for a ring I would never see again. "In that case, we can stop the automatic payments, but the amount already paid cannot be refunded," he explained. "This happens more often than you might think. Would you like me to process this now?" "Yes, please," I replied, feeling a strange relief as one tie was severed. Next was the car. I had purchased it in my name, paying the insurance and remaining fully responsible for the loan. One call to the dealership confirmed what I already knew. I could either continue payments or arrange for the vehicle to be returned, since it was legally mine. I chose the latter, asking them to coordinate the return process directly with Natalie via email. I also contacted my insurance company to remove the vehicle from my policy. With those major financial entanglements addressed, I moved on to the smaller digital threads that connected us. One by one, I changed passwords to all the accounts she had access to: Netflix, Hulu, HBO, Amazon, Prime, Spotify, our shared cloud storage, and even food delivery services. For each, I received confirmation emails that flooded my inbox, digital breadcrumbs of our separation. The most difficult task was calling my lawyer. Though we were not married, we had lived together long enough that there could be complications regarding property and finances. The conversation was brief, but reassuring. Since the condo was purchased before our relationship and remained solely in my name, her claim to it was minimal. The same applied to my investments and savings. The items we had purchased together would need to be divided, but that was manageable. As I worked through my checklist, my phone buzzed with texts from Natalie. I ignored them, focusing instead on reaching out to my closest friends. James, my best friend since college, responded immediately. "Coming over now. Do not do anything stupid. We will get through this." I also contacted our mutual friends who had been involved in wedding planning, sending brief messages explaining that the engagement was off. I provided no details about her affair or pregnancy, taking the high road despite the temptation to expose her betrayal. The final step was the most emotionally challenging. I went through our shared cloud photo album, downloading the images I wanted to keep before removing my access. As I scrolled through the digital timeline of our relationship, I stumbled across a folder I had never noticed before, hidden within her professional portfolio section. Curiosity and a growing sense of dread compelled me to open it. Inside were dozens of photos of Natalie and Anthony together, dating back nearly 7 months, well before she claimed their affair had begun. There they were, smiling at dinners, hiking on trails we had explored together, and even one picture of them kissing in what appeared to be a hotel room. The timestamp showed it was taken the weekend she had told me she was at a marketing conference in Portland. For a brief, dark moment, I considered using these photos as ammunition, sending them to friends or her parents, exposing the extent of her deception. The hurt had finally broken through my shock, bringing with it waves of anger that threatened to drown my resolve to handle this with dignity. I closed the folder, logged out of the account, and changed the password. Revenge might feel satisfying in the moment, but it would not help me rebuild my life. By the time James arrived with takeout food and beer, I had methodically severed every connection I could think of between Natalie and myself. The process had been exhausting, each action a small wound that collectively left me feeling hollowed out. I had not cried yet, but as James pulled me into a supportive hug at the door, I felt the first cracks in my composure. "I did what I needed to do," I told him, as we sat in my living room surrounded by the remnants of the life Natalie and I had built together. Every account is changed, every financial tie cut. She cannot hurt me anymore. At least, not financially. James nodded approvingly. "Smart move. Quick and clean, like ripping off a bandage." "But how are you really doing?" I shook my head, unable to articulate the storm of emotions building inside me. "How do you describe the sensation of your future dissolving? The wedding that would never happen. The children we would never have. The growing old together that was now impossible. All gone in a single conversation." I keep seeing her face. When I said congratulations, I admitted. She looked disappointed, like she wanted me to beg her to stay or make a scene. Why would she want that? Some people need drama to validate their decisions. James replied thoughtfully. She probably expected you to fight for her, and when you did not, it took away her justification for leaving. You denied her the narrative she wanted. As the night progressed and the beer bottles accumulated, I allowed myself to fully feel the pain I had been suppressing. The betrayal was not just about the affair or even the pregnancy, but the calculated deception over months, the double life she had led while sleeping beside me each night. Every memory now required re-examination, every moment of happiness potentially tainted by her lies. When my phone rang around midnight, I was not surprised to see Natalie's name on the screen. I silenced it then, blocked her number entirely. Whatever she wanted to say, I was not ready to hear it. Little did I know that in a few hours, she would find another way to force a conversation, one that would test my resolve in ways I never anticipated. The persistent doorbell pulled me from a fitful sleep at around 6 in the morning. After James left, I had fallen asleep on the couch, emotionally exhausted, yet unable to face the emptiness of my bed. For a moment I considered ignoring the intrusion, but the ringing continued without pause, now accompanied by loud knocking. Through the peephole I saw Natalie. Her mascara was streaked down her cheeks, her hair disheveled, and her eyes red and swollen from crying. She clutched her phone in one hand and a small overnight bag in the other. My first instinct was to walk away to protect myself from whatever new pain she had come to inflict. But something kept me rooted to the spot, perhaps morbid curiosity, or simply the last dying ember of care I had for her. I opened the door, but remained standing firmly in the doorway, blocking her entrance. She looked up at me with an expression of desperate relief. "Don, thank God you are home," she sobbed, attempting to step forward into the apartment. I did not move. "What do you want, Natalie?" I asked, my voice hoarse from lack of sleep and the previous night's emotions. Anthony kicked me out, she blurted, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "We got into a huge fight last night. His girlfriend found out about us and came to his apartment while I was there. It was horrible, Don. She went crazy, screaming and throwing things." I stared at her blankly, processing this new information. Girlfriend. Anthony had a girlfriend while carrying on an affair with Natalie, who had been engaged to me. The twisted web of deception would have been almost comical if it were not so painful. "That sounds difficult," I said neutrally. "What does it have to do with me?" She looked shocked at my response, as if the connection should be obvious. "I need to come home, Don. I made a terrible mistake. I was confused and scared about the pregnancy, and Anthony convinced me we should be together for the baby. But he does not really want me, or the baby. He just wanted to sleep with me, and now he is trying to get back with his girlfriend. Home." She still thought of my apartment as her home, despite walking out just hours ago to begin a new life with another man. The audacity was breathtaking. "This is not your home anymore, Natalie," I said quietly. She tried again to move past me into the apartment, then grew frustrated when I remained immobile. "What do you mean? We lived together for 2 years. All my stuff is here. My key does not work anymore. I changed the locks this morning." I lied, not wanting to explain that I had simply reprogrammed the electronic door lock by removing her access code. "She does not need to know the specifics, but I love you, Don," she whispered, reaching for my hand. "I made one mistake. People make mistakes. We can work through this. One mistake is forgetting an anniversary or saying something hurtful." In an argument, I replied, finally feeling anger rising in my chest. "Having a 6-month affair and getting pregnant with another man is not a mistake. It is a series of deliberate choices you made every day for half a year." She flinched at my words, but quickly recovered. "Anthony manipulated me. He pursued me relentlessly, telling me everything I wanted to hear about my career and my potential. I was weak, but I never stopped loving you." I laughed then, a sound so foreign and harsh that it surprised even me. "You told me yesterday that he was more successful and better for your career goals." Those were your exact words. You were not manipulated, Natalie. You saw an opportunity for advancement and took it. Unfortunately, you miscalculated. At this point, a neighbor's door opened down the hall. Mrs. Patel, a kind elderly woman who had always smiled warmly at Natalie, and me, peeked out curiously. Natalie noticed and immediately lowered her voice, clearly embarrassed to have an audience. Please, Don. Just let me in so we can talk privately, she pleaded. There is nothing to discuss, I responded firmly. You should contact your parents or a friend for a place to stay. Her expression shifted then. Desperation, giving way to anger. You canceled the payments on my ring, she accused. The jewelry store called me this morning, asking about retrieving it, and the car dealership emailed about returning the car. How could you do that to me? The ring was still being paid for, and the car is in my name, I pointed out calmly. Neither belongs to you legally. I was simply protecting my financial interests. And what about our streaming services? She demanded, her voice rising again, despite our neighbor's presence. And all our shared accounts. I cannot access anything. I shrugged, unmoved by her indignation. Those were my accounts that I shared with you. Since you are no longer part of my life, I removed your access. Her face crumpled, and for a moment, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. What am I supposed to do? She asked, her voice small. I have nowhere to go. Anthony says I have to get my stuff and never contact him again. He said the baby ruins everything for him. Despite everything, I felt a twinge of sympathy. Not for Natalie, but for the innocent child caught in this mess. However, that sympathy was quickly tempered by suspicion. Is there really a baby, Natalie? I asked directly. Or was that just something you told me to make your exit seem more justified? She looked offended. Of course there is a baby. I would never lie about something like that. But you would lie about loving me. Note, you would lie about being faithful. You would lie about wanting a future with me. So forgive me if I question your integrity now. She had no response to that. Instead, she tried a new approach. I thought you would fight for me, she admitted quietly. When I told you about Anthony, I expected you to tell me you would not let me go, that you would do anything to keep me. I wanted to feel like you would battle for our relationship. And there it was, the truth finally emerging. She had created this scenario as a test, a twisted way to prove my devotion. In her mind, my acceptance of her decision was a failure, evidence that I did not love her enough. The realization was both enlightening and sickening. I did fight for you, Natalie, I said softly, every day for 3 years. I fought for your happiness, for your dreams, for our future. I helped with your student loans, bought you a car, proposed marriage, and began building a life with you. That was me fighting for you. What you wanted yesterday was not a fight for our relationship. You wanted me to fight against your own decision, to challenge your agency as an adult. That is not love, that is control. She stared at me, tears flowing freely now. No one ever explained it that way before. Well, now someone has, I replied. You should go. Call your parents. They will help you. She made one final desperate attempt. The baby might be yours, Don. We need to consider that possibility. I shook my head, disappointed, but not surprised by this last manipulation. If you genuinely believe that we can arrange for a paternity test after the birth, until then, I wish you and your child well, but I cannot be part of this situation. With that, I gently closed the door, despite her protests. Through the wood, I could hear her sobbing, then angry muttering, and finally the sound of her walking away. From my window, I watched as she got into an Uber and disappeared from view, taking with her the last vestiges of the life I had thought was mine. Closing the door on Natalie that morning was both the hardest and most necessary action I had taken in my adult life. Once she was gone, the full weight of everything crashed down on me. I slid down against the door until I was sitting on the floor, finally allowing the tears I had been holding back to flow freely. This was not just sadness, but grief for the future that had been stolen from me, anger at her betrayal and fear of what came next. I called James, who came over again without hesitation. When I opened the door to him, his expression told me I looked as terrible as I felt. Without a word, he pulled me into a hug that broke down the last of my defenses. For several minutes, I simply let myself fall apart, while my best friend supported me both literally and figuratively. The first week after Natalie left was a blur of practical matters mixed with overwhelming emotion. I took a week off work, explaining to my sympathetic manager that my engagement had ended suddenly. Friends and family rallied around me, bringing food, checking in regularly, and offering distractions when the pain became too intense. My mother drove up from Portland and stayed for 3 days cleaning my apartment and removing subtle reminders of Natalie that I had missed in my initial purge. The hardest part was the constant questioning in my mind. Had there been signs I missed? Could I have prevented this somehow? Was there something fundamentally unlovable about me that had driven her to seek comfort elsewhere? Logically, I knew her choices reflected her character, not mine, but emotion rarely follows logic. I began seeing a therapist, Dr. Leonard, who specialized in relationship trauma. Our sessions provided a safe space to unpack the complex emotions I was experiencing. She validated my decision to cut ties cleanly, rather than getting entangled in Natalie's drama. Your response showed remarkable emotional intelligence, Dr. Leonard told me during one session. Many people in your position would have either lashed out destructively or begged her to reconsider. Instead, you protected yourself while maintaining your dignity. That speaks to your inner strength. Her words were comforting, but the healing process remained non-linear. Some days I felt almost normal going to work, exercising, and engaging with friends. Other days, a song or smell would trigger memories of Natalie, sending me spiraling back into grief. I learned to accept these fluctuations as natural rather than fighting them. About a month after our final confrontation, I received formal confirmation from my lawyer that Natalie had no legal claims to my property or finances. She had attempted to argue that she was entitled to partial ownership of the condo based on cohabitation laws, but without marriage or any financial contribution to the mortgage. Her claim was quickly dismissed. I also learned through mutual friends that Natalie had moved back to Portland to live with her parents. According to the grapevine, she was still pregnant and telling people different versions of our breakup, casting herself as the victim of my emotional unavailability. I chose not to correct the record, knowing that those who truly knew me would see through her narrative. In a moment of weakness, one night after a few too many drinks, I found myself looking at her social media profiles. Her Instagram showed no signs of pregnancy or relationship troubles, just carefully curated images of coffee shops, Portland scenery, and professional networking events. The disparity between her public persona and private reality was jarring. I blocked her accounts that same night, recognizing that digital stalking was only prolonging my pain. As months passed, I slowly reclaimed my life. I redecorated my apartment, replacing furniture that held too many memories and creating a space that felt entirely mine. I resumed hiking, something Natalie and I had enjoyed together. But now, I went with different friends, or sometimes alone, finding healing in the mountains that had always centered me. I reconnected with friends she had subtly isolated me from, realizing only in retrospect how she had discouraged certain friendships that did not benefit her socially or professionally. My circle expanded, bringing new perspectives and experiences that enriched my life in unexpected ways. Work became a sanctuary, where I could focus on concrete problems with clear solutions, unlike the messy, emotional landscape I was navigating personally. I threw myself into challenging projects, earning recognition and eventually a promotion that Natalie would never know about or share, in a success that was wholly mine. 6 months after Natalie walked out, I received an unexpected message from a former colleague who had moved to her marketing firm. He apologetically explained that he had witnessed her affair with Anthony from the beginning, but had not known how to approach me about it. Everyone at the office knew, he wrote. It was incredibly uncomfortable watching them together at company events, knowing you were at home unaware. I should have told you, and I will always regret not speaking up. Rather than reopening wounds, this confession provided a strange comfort. The affair had been real and visible, not just a paranoid creation of my mind during the aftermath. There had indeed been signs, and while I had missed them, others had seen clearly. This knowledge somehow freed me from the last lingering self-doubt. The final piece of my healing came from an unexpected source. Nearly a year after our breakup, as I was preparing for a business trip to New York, I received an email from Natalie. My first instinct was to delete it unread, but curiosity won out. "Don," she wrote, "I owe you an apology that is long overdue. I am back in Seattle now, and would love the chance to talk in person. No strings attached. No ulterior motives. Just closure, and perhaps forgiveness." I read the message several times, surprised by my lack of emotional reaction. Where once those words would have sent me into a tailspin of conflicting feelings, now I felt only a calm detachment. Natalie no longer held power over my emotional state, and that realization was profoundly liberating. After consulting with Dr. Leonard, I decided to decline the meeting, but acknowledge her message. My response was brief but honest. "I appreciate your apology, but I do not believe a meeting would be beneficial for either of us. I have healed and moved forward with my life. I wish you well on your journey." As I clicked send, I felt the last weight lift from my shoulders. The chapter was truly closed now, not because I had forgotten or even fully forgiven, but because I had grown beyond the pain into something stronger and more self-aware. Looking back on that fateful day when Natalie announced she was leaving, I realize her betrayal gave me an unexpected gift. It showed me my own resilience, my capacity for dignity under pressure, and the true value of authentic connections with friends and family who stood by me when everything fell apart. The most important lesson I learned was that while we cannot control how others treat us, we always control how we respond. My quick, dignified reaction saved me from months of manipulation and false hope. By choosing self-respect over desperation, I gave myself the best possible foundation for rebuilding. To anyone facing betrayal, remember this. Your response in that crucial moment will define your path forward, more than the betrayal itself ever could. Choose dignity. Choose self-worth. Choose a clean break that allows true healing to begin. The pain will not disappear overnight, but each day of standing in your truth brings you closer to a life rebuilt on stronger, more authentic foundations. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have responded with calm dignity, or confronted the betrayal differently? Leave a comment below with your thoughts. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need to hear this message of resilience and self-respect. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most powerful new beginnings.